What's up, everybody? Ross Reviews here. I'm back at it again with another video, and today we're going to be talking character creation once again. This is part 2 of my multi-part series on character creation for Dungeons and Dragons specifically, but I'm assuming that this method would work for any sort of tabletop game, so feel free to use it in, say, like Pathfinder or Call of Cthulhu or anything like that. So let's just jump right into it, guys. Today we're going to be covering backstory, as you can tell by the title. And this is my personal favorite part of the character creation, because I really like to write stories and write characters and stuff. Grew up on Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, all that kind of stuff. So that's really where I kind of got the feel for and the liking for writing characters and seeing their stories and stuff like that. Also in college, I had a psychology professor who really turned me on to the Joseph Campbell's work with the archetypes and stuff, and along with Carl Jung, who developed that, and Joseph Campbell just kind of took it to the next level. So that stuff I found super interesting, and has really been a staple of what I enjoy in terms of video games, movies, comics, any type of storytelling. So for me, guys, the biggest thing is making a character, like I said the other day, making a character that you can really get behind. And the backstory is where you're really going to be able to make those decisions and make the character as interesting as you want, and as either in depth as you want, or what have you. First things first, the length of the backstory doesn't really matter as long as you have like a quick summary for the other players in your group, and then enough information for the DM to be able to fit them into the campaign, and then everything else after that is just extra gravy on top of the potatoes, you know what I'm saying? For me, like I said the other day, one of my characters' backstories was relatively quick and easy, and then my other character I kind of went a little overboard with, but I had a lot of fun writing it, so I just kept doing it, and I'm still really kind of not even done to this point, and I've been playing this character since like November or whatever, but anything that I've added really isn't going to affect where that character is in the campaign that we're at, and those kind of story decisions. But if I do, like my DM Rainey does have access to this Google Doc that I'll show you a little later, and if I do add something, I can send it to him, and then that way he kind of has a heads up about anything that I might add that could affect the story. Quickly going over, how I came up with the character Einar Stonefist, like I mentioned last week. I had a quick backstory relative to some of the other ones that I've done. And then if you guys do want to hear more about some of those other characters that I haven't actually played but just have some ideas jotted down, let me know in the comments down below. I might start doing stuff like that and just kind of like reading character backstories and stuff like that. So you guys have some inspiration. But anyway, yeah, so Einar's backstory was very simple. It started off with a quick sentence like, blacksmith by trade, adventurer by desire. So then from there, I actually expanded it to be like, he was the son of a blacksmith in a hill dwarf village, and he trained at the forge, and his father obviously wanted him as the firstborn son to take over the forge, and he decided that while he was actually like pretty good at it, it just wasn't his passion. He enjoyed like the mysteries of the world and stuff like that, and like just being out in the world. So instead of training at the forge, he would often be exploring the woods and the caves and stuff like near the village and everything. And that actually allowed his younger brother to end up being better than him at being a blacksmith. Because he was always training and he was focused on his hard work and stuff like that. So one day, Einar, when he was out screwing around in the woods and stuff like that, he came back and basically saw that there was an ogre attacking the village. So he ran to the village square where the attack was going down, and as soon as he got there, he saw his dad get like picked up and like tossed by the ogre into like a bunch of shit. So he runs over and that's not literal shit. That's like I don't know. It was like a building or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't really flesh that part out. But so he runs over to his dad, and his dad's just like pretty much just straight up dead. Like doesn't get a final moment with his dad or anything like that. And he looks up, and the ogre's actually like coming towards him. So he kind of just like, you know, seeing his dad dead, you know, he was like, fuck this ogre, and basically took on the ogre, and like he went to like reach for his hand axe and was like, fuck, I probably dropped it in the woods or something like that. So he went in and like just fought this ogre barehanded, and you know, using his wit and his cunning, he was able to take the ogre down, and got on top of it and just started smashing its face in with his fists. And when the ogre was dead, everyone was just like, they gave him the nickname Stone Fist, because, you know, basically it was as if he smashed the ogre's head in with a stone, but it was his fist, you know, something something along those lines, right? So they basically decided between the brothers that obviously Gunther was the better smith of the two, so it just seemed natural that he would actually be taking over the forge because he had the passion for it. He was better than Einar when it came to the forge, so it was just going to be better off for everybody involved that Gunther would take over the forge. And, you know, Einar basically just passed that over to him. So that actually gave Einar the window to keep going around adventuring and stuff, and like, you know, just exploring caves and this and that. So if he came across any cool like ores or metals or anything like that, he would bring it back to his brother and be like, hey, like, I got you some material that like you don't actually have to pay for, so you can make a better profit and stuff like that. So they were just, you know, hanging out, being dwarves and stuff. And a couple of years later, he was again out, you know, doing whatever, and came back, and the entire village, like, it looked like it got like completely wiped out by a storm. And there's like tons of things destroyed. There was a couple dead bodies. So he runs to his house, and he's like shifting around the rubble, like trying to find a body or anything like that. And he actually finds like a note, and he picked it up and like uncrumpled it, and it said west. So that's where he headed, and then that's how he's going to fit into, or that's how he fit into the campaign. Was basically he was out looking. He's searching for his family, and he came across a group of different people and different races and stuff, and then he ended up traveling with this group, and then boom, that's where we're at. We're the Misfits, like I covered last week or last night, whatever it was, last video. So with that, I actually kind of had everything else really just kind of fall into place in terms of the personality traits, the flaws, the bonds, all that stuff. So that's, once you make the backstory, that's going to be the next thing you pick. So there's a bunch of different ones in the player's handbook, as well as Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I think there's a couple more backgrounds. So when you pick a background, it's going to give you access to a bunch of traits and stuff like that. So first off, the background was super simple. I explained the story to Rainey, the DM, and he was like, okay, cool. So it sounds like you want to be like either a fighter or a barbarian. We ended up settling on fighter, and then from there it was like, okay, well, champion seems like a good way to go, as well as folk hero based on what you've told me. So he was given a nickname, based on a deed that he did, which actually fit right into the defining moment that the folk hero background gets, where it was, I stood alone against a terrible monster. So everything just kind of fell in line from there. So I'm hoping, and you can do this two ways, right? You could even look at the backgrounds and stuff and say, I really do want to play a folk hero, so let me build a character around that. Or I want to play maybe a sailor, like this is someone who is, usually on ships and stuff like that, and now they're, stuck on land or whatever it is, however you want to do it. So you can either do the backstory first, and then with what you've created, see what fits and just naturally falls in. Or you can, pick the stuff in the book and then go, okay, so based on all these things that I see, here's how I'm going to make this character, and here's what happened to them and led them to become an adventurer. Because remember, that's always the major thing when we're making characters. Like, why did they become an adventurer? What's their drive? Stuff like that. So like I said, these are all things you can either just pick straight out of the book, or you can even roll for them if you want to play like just a straight up rolled character and just see what the dice says. Or if you are having trouble, you can, again, roll for it, however you want to do. So you get a couple of personality traits. You get an ideal, a bond, and a flaw. So these are going to help flesh out the personality of your character. So for me, we were looking at it, and the personality traits I chose were I judge people by their actions, not their words, and then thinking is for other people. I prefer action, because I felt that those two went hand in hand and really kind of fleshed out like this young, naive dwarf that really, he wants to be famous. Like, he wants to be the kind of dwarf that gets talked about for centuries for his deeds. He's obviously grown up on stories like that, from his parents. The things were passed down and everything like that. You hear about famous people, and that was something that personally I, believe in as Rosso here. Like, your deeds are what's going to live on. The stories that are told about you of what you did are going to be told on after you die. And like, that's the way to achieve immortality is, do something so great that people keep talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, you look in the history books and you see all the names and all the deeds, like FDR, fucking Abraham Lincoln. You're going all the way back to even like King Leonidas, to Ragnar Lothbrok, to Charlemagne, to the list goes on. Everything that we've seen, these things keep getting passed on. And the fun part for someone like Einar is he knows that his stories are going to get embellished. The more times they get told, the more things are going to get added and stuff, or left out, which could go either way for him. So that was something that I really felt like, okay, this is a character that now I get where they're coming from. I get his motives. So like, let's keep going. So the next thing, because we just went right in order. So the next thing was his ideal. And this kind of helps you guide you to your alignment, which alignment is going to be its own video, because there's a lot of nuances to it. And there's a lot of examples and stuff that I can give to explain that a lot better. And I don't want to take too much time out of this video to go over that. So alignment's probably going to be its own video, maybe next or a little bit down the road. But I'll get into that more there. So I chose sincerity for his ideal. So that basically says, I'm no good at pretending to be something I'm not. And I felt like for Einar particularly, while I have, joked and stuff, but he really is a pretty straightforward dwarf. Like, what you see is what you get. He's not gonna try to trick you. He's gonna be, generally speaking, as honest as possible. If you're nice to him, he's gonna be nice back. If you're a dick to him, he might give you some sass back. And basically, for me, I felt that going that way with him was gonna, be able to keep him in check, basically. So I felt that kind of narrows down where I'm going to go with interactions, even the fighting style. You know what I mean? He's not going to be this flashy, acrobatic fighter. He's just going to go in there and hit stuff. And he's going to hit it hard and hope that it falls. And if it doesn't fall, he's going to keep hitting it till it does fall, or until he falls. So, he's pretty straightforward. So the bond was another super easy one that fell right into line, basically from the backstory. Because it talks about, I don't know where my family is, but I hope that I can see them again one day. And that's, so always in the back of his mind, while there's the major quest going on, that is, because we're running Storm King's Thunder, so obviously, that's the main plot, but always in the back of his mind is that, I hope I get to see my family again. I hope, I get to live through this. But for him, it doesn't get brought up all the time, because obviously there's something bigger at stake. And then going back to his personality and stuff, again, he wants to be famous, so he has this opportunity to do something huge that affects pretty much the entire Sword Coast, if not, more. So think of that as the main quest, and then his side quest is like trying to find his family, and that's something that can wait. So lastly was his flaw, and that was actually pretty easy in my opinion, because a lot of the stuff in the Folk Hero was very Destiny based. So this one here was basically, I know my Destiny, but I'm a bit brash and stuff like that. So I'm blind to my brashness, whatever it was that we wrote down. Because it's in the book, but on the sheet you kind of write like a quicker version of it, just so you get it quicker. And there's not a lot of room on the character sheets anyway. So for me, that was pretty much spot on, because he is a really young dwarf. I think we made him like 54, 56, so he's like just about into adulthood at that point. And so he's not mature enough to look inside himself and be like, wow, I was kind of a dick there, like, damn, this is what I need to do with these giants is kind of blinding how I interact with other things. So for me, I felt that was a good fit for him, and it really helped me flesh out the character. Then when it came to Ram, his backstory looks something like this. So I have his appearance, just some basic info. He's a tiefling, he's a hexblade warlock. Right here I have the too long didn't read about basically like his deal, and then here comes the super detailed backstory with conversations. I'm not gonna lie, it really aggravates me that down here I got to like really set it up the way I wanted to in terms of like conversations and making them stand out a little bit better, but I don't know why it won't do it up here or even below that. Like that's the only one that it does for, but whatever. I'm ranting at this point. So like I said, so now this is like super long. There's like chapters and stuff, and so I did give the DM access to this document, and because there were some things that we needed to flesh out in terms of like basically what his pact looks like with the patron. Does he know the patron? Has he completed some jobs before he got into like where we're at in the campaign? Basically that kind of stuff. So we used this model to be able to like kind of chat back and forth about stuff like that. Plus the writing it this way and doing the conversations really helped me as a player really dive deep into like who Ram is and what Ram is and stuff like that. So like, because obviously I know a bit, because obviously I made him and stuff like that, and what I've modeled him after. But to really like have these down, it really kind of like brings me into it a little bit more. So like I'll try to read this like before I end up going into the campaign or into the session. So that way it's like fresh in my mind and it's kind of on my mind, because a lot of what Ram deals with is regret. So as long as I keep the events and stuff of his life like fresh in my head, it should help me as a character and a player in the session to play that character a little bit more true. Also, the really cool thing about this and about this character in particular, Ram made a deal with an otherworldly entity, which he doesn't know what it is. He just asked for help and needed revenge, and a voice called back and basically gave him an offer. And I, as the player, also don't know who the patron is. Me and the DM decided that was going to be the best way, and that it'll be revealed to me eventually. So I'm really excited. There's some clues from the campaign that we play, like what's happened in the campaign, plus some of the things that he's added into the backstory and the notes that he gave me to flesh out some other conversations. But I've been good and I haven't Googled it, because I'm sure I could easily Google it and find it. But I want that to be like a very special moment with the character and in the campaign and stuff like that, because I feel like as a player, that's going to be a big twist and a big reveal. So I want to make sure that not only I can enjoy it, but the DM can enjoy, giving me that big reveal. Like, think something to the effect of like George Lucas not telling anybody that Vader is Luke's father, and then when you actually see the screening for the first time, you get that you get that reveal and everybody's shocked. So I don't think it'll be like that big, but I want to make sure that I give Rainey his moment as well as he's going to give me mine at the same time. And now in terms of Rom versus where I went with Einar, I'm gonna get a little real with you guys here, but when I came up with this character, the past few years have been they've been pretty rough for me personally. Without getting into too much detail, I've been going through some stuff, and with this character, I really kind of took some of the things that I was feeling and emotional wise, and some of the thoughts that I was having, and I tried to put it into this character. So basically, I wanted to put like pain and regret, feeling lost and not really feeling like you fit in. So like that was where I ended up going with the tiefling as the race, and with him being a warlock, that it's no secret that I, like a lot of other people, deal with varying amounts of anxiety and depression, and you can't physically see those things, and they have this power over you. So for me, making a warlock and having that patron that's always kind of like in the back of your mind and always has that connection with you, I felt that was a good move for me where I am. So basically, I tried to put more of myself into this character than I did Einar. I put some of Einar's virtues and some of Einar's goals were some of mine. Obviously, like doing something memorable that people are gonna keep talking about you after you die. That's kind of what I put into Einar. But with Rom, it was a lot more personal, and I found that through playing this character, it's honestly helped me. And I feel like I'm able to work through some things that I was kind of dealing with through this character. So don't be afraid to do that. And you don't have to tell, like now I'm telling you guys this, but up until this point, I really never told too many people basically that part of Rom's creation and where I came up with him. Like my DM didn't know that. The people in my party didn't know that either. So don't be afraid to subtly sneak things in there with anything that you're going on in your own life, to try to help you work through some stuff. I mean, we're all playing D&D because we're nerds. We're not exactly, we may not be the most popular type of people out there. There might be things that aren't all sunshine and rainbows, like in anybody's life. We just have a different way of dealing with it. So, like I said, don't be afraid to do some of that stuff, and then, be willing to talk about what you want, and then not talk about what you don't want. That's also another big thing. And then another part of Rom that I started, like I mentioned last video, taking things from popular media that already exists. I drew a lot of inspiration from Anakin Skywalker as well. So, like you see through reading Rom's backstory, he didn't really ask for the hand that he was dealt. He was trying to make the best of it, and through his own actions, he kind of ended up causing what he was trying to avoid, and like the fears that he had. And that was actually pretty personal to me as well. So I incorporated that aspect into there, and I also took the part from episode 2 where Anakin, slaughters the Sand People. Anakin, or Rom, did kind of have a little freak out, and like I said, I'll get into it more. Maybe I'll do some deeper dives into Rom, maybe like an animated backstory or something to that effect. So I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, so that part's in there. and that was kind of, the patron, fully being there and all that. So, I mean, you don't have to incorporate, parts of yourself. I mean, sometimes it is fun playing someone who is, very similar to you, and then sometimes it's fun to play someone who's the complete opposite. So whatever you guys want to do, like I said a million times, and I'll keep saying, just make sure your character is somebody you can get behind. That's the main thing. I think for now, this is a great place to stop. You're going to want your takeaways from this video to be, start with a small, quick sentence, and then build from there, like you're pitching a movie. And then you can go as detailed as you want to, but no, it's not necessary. And if you do end up going super detailed like I do, make sure you have that too long didn't read version, so that way you can kind of speed things up when talking about your character. Again, don't be afraid to use elements of either yourself or other characters that already exist. And then lastly, don't be afraid to use the book to either get some inspiration, to just straight up roll for stuff, and as always, consult your DM. They can help guide you as well. So anyway, guys, I really hope that you're digging this series and you find it helpful. If you have any questions, please drop them down below in the comment section. Like I said, I'll try to do my best to answer them as best I can, and if not, I'll try to link you somewhere where you might be able to find that answer. And as always, guys, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And that little bell notification will give you a notification most of the time. I know there's some issues with it right now on YouTube, but if you hit that bell, they'll most likely get you a notification every time I post a new video. So let's just keep having fun here, and I'll see you next time. Rosso, signing off.